when Missouri had the ball, my dad kept being like, last time I checked, there's not a 9-point touchdown. So I think we're okay. But then
I love it, Lou.
um, welcome to My Gotta Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, John Powell and I review Georgia's 30-21 win over Missouri. We talk about our experiences on Saturday and what stood out to us during the game. As always, remember to check out the newly redesigned MyGottaPodcast.com to see our latest merch. And you can follow us on social media at MyGottaPodcast. Finally, we'd love for you to check out our presenting sponsor, Oxia Time, at OxiaTime.com. That's AXIATIME.com. Now, let's join the conversation in progress. So, homecoming with Mizzou is over.
Just as we predicted.
Just as, you know what? I apologize for the voice. I left it all in the stadium yesterday. You weren't too far off, John, actually, in the grand scheme of things. So you had this game 35-25, 30-21. I mean, you had a 10-point spread. It was a 9-point spread. So I'm going to give you some flowers. That was pretty close.
I'll take the flowers. It didn't feel good. I didn't think that it would go down the way that it went down, but
yeah,
it is what it is. It felt like one of those games, like, I think that I think we were a drop away, like the drop that Rara had in the end zone. I think that had he caught that, then I feel like the momentum swings would have been a little bit bigger. The point spread would have looked a little bit more impressive. But you can't really complain. You can't really complain beating an opponent like that for 2 scores. One of the best quarterbacks in the country, one of the best wide receivers in the country, one of the best offenses in the country. We knew that defense was going to be kind of brutal coming in from a running game standpoint. So I just felt like that. The score pretty much kind of tracked with what we were feeling a little bit. Like I said, we dropped some points here and there. So, long term, that's something that we're going to need to shore up. A big second half performance by the boys, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah, agreed. I think my confidence actually grew between when we recorded the preview and kickoff. So I was actually expecting to win by more by the time we kicked off, and it kind of brought me back to Monday with us talking. So
you had a few bourbons, and you got all in your feelings, and then
I actually didn't have bourbon pregame. I had a few beers, not a ton, but yeah, I didn't have bourbon. I didn't do the bourbons. Maybe that was the problem.
Bourbon at Kentucky?
I did.
Did you have any bourbon for Florida?
Okay. And you know what else? You know what else I didn't do, John? I did not tweet the official hashtag. Fail. All my fault. All my fault. I wore a hat though.
I was about to say, did you wear a hat?
I wore a hat. Oh man. Well, I do want to. I think part of what got me so confident was listening to the folks on the panel at the Home Field Homecoming Friday night. We had with Dog Central. So.
Let's back up. So first of all, did you run into any traffic on your way down?
I did. Actually, it wasn't too bad. Most of the traffic on the way down was in like getting out of Charlotte. There's a slight slowdown at Gaffney. Actually, no, it was between, where was it? It was between Spartanburg and Greenville. That was actually the worst traffic. It was super random. Yeah, but it wasn't too bad.
Okay.
Because I left.
You were heading into Athens though, so you had everything seems better when you're heading to Athens.
That's true, and I had podcasts to listen to on the way down. I listened, to our friends in 100 Sanford on the way down. Helped me pass the time, so it wasn't too bad.
Excellent.
So got in, stopped in, see my parents on the way in, spent a little time with them, and then headed on into Athens, went over to the Foundry, for a great evening. I'm going to list off some people that I ran into, and I'm probably forgetting someone. So if we talked and I don't mention you, apologies. There was a lot going on. It was a great night. But walked in, first person I actually saw was my guy Landon. John, I told the story of when young Landon brought me a chair at a tailgate earlier this season, and we talked. So Landon and his family were there, so it was awesome to see them again. Go check them out, McGraw Game Day Pick'em on Instagram. So shout out Landon, be sure to go check them out. So great spent some time with them. Met a couple of Dog Central folks that are active on the forum, and J Rab Dog and Joe Boss Dog. Got to talk to them at length. It was a lot of fun. And then Brett Belding, our buddy, he took a fantastic picture of the panel. So thanks so much, Brett. That was a really good. I think that was the best photo I saw, actually.
Yeah, seriously.
It was a really good one. But our tailgate host, Rodeo, one of our tailgate hosts, Rodeo, made it out. That was a lot of fun. And Jay Abbott. So, we had Dwight on to talk about Bulldogs battling breast cancer. So Jay and Teresa are the founders of Bulldogs battling breast cancer, and Jay made it. So I got to meet Jay. I'd never met Jay before. The crew from Chapel Bell Curve was there. Had not seen Nathan or Justin in quite some time. And I met Yara, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're Yara.
The famous Yara.
So that was fun. I met Will Morrison from the text thread from Dog Central. Had met him in person, so that was great. But then just wanted to say thanks to Home Field Apparel and Josh Johns for hosting, Alex Kirshner, Split Zone Duo, for hosting. Go check out Split Zone Duo. It's a great podcast. And then just thanks to Dog Central, Graham Coffee, John Smith, and George Foster, Big George Foster, for being on the panel. It was a blast. It was a lot of fun. And I think George actually got me confident.
So, George did. He was talking that smoke. That was for sure.
I gotta say, when George got there, like when George walked through the doorway, you're like, oh, George is here. He is every bit looks like he was a first round NFL offensive tackle.
The pictures didn't do him any justice, though.
Oh man, yeah. And again, shout out to Brett, because we were all sitting in stools with that angle of the picture. It did not look like. I mean, George is at least a foot taller than I am. He is a specimen. He is a large. I mean, he talks about this about guys that play these days. Large human. George is a large human. But man, what a great guy. Super nice. Got to sit and chat with George for a bit before and after too. So it was a fun time. It was a fun time. Awesome.
I'm super jealous. But I'm glad I jumped on to try to listen to some of the live broadcast. Hit us with some highlights from the actual panel itself. Give a quick summation.
Okay, so Alex, Kirshner hosted it. He did a great job of hopping around from person to person. He wanted to know, it was his first time in Athens. He had never been to a Georgia home game before.
What?
So he wanted to know, we talked about Athens, what makes Athens special. He was so perplexed by the fact that he walked around on campus all day Friday and saw no one with a backpack on. He was like, the ability for Georgia students to avoid class on Friday is elite. That was one of his comments.
That's funny.
So we talked about that. Just talked about kind of what it feels like right now to be a Georgia fan. We talked about Munsoning and Munsoning being dead. There are multiple sorry Carters. One by Alex right out the gate, and then I believe I think John Smith hit us with a "How about them fucking dogs?" Sorry, Carter. I think that was John's. So what else? We got into we talked Mizzou, talked about Burden, kind of what we were or weren't worried about. Kim corrected me on something because Kim listened, and one of the questions
Kim.
One of the questions that came to me. So Kim had a yelling at the panel moment when she listened. So one of the questions that came to me was he talked about homecoming, and the fact that homecoming was started by Mizzou came up. By the way, John tweets brought it up, and I said that Graham said. Thanks, John, for dropping some knowledge. And I said that he clearly had just listened to your fun facts. But he ended up asking me, is Georgia a homecoming school? And I just kind of answered it of here are the things we do on homecoming. But Kim corrected me and said that what I should have said is, no, Georgia is not a homecoming school. Homecoming schools do homecoming to fill the stands and get butts in the seats homecoming weekend. And Georgia has that atmosphere and that environment every game. So we don't need to be a quote homecoming school. So
there you go.
Yeah. So I liked her answer better than mine.
Yes. You should have had some, you clearly should have had some coaching.
I know. Seriously. I didn't know that question was coming. So I'll tell you, we didn't like know what he was going to ask. Like he kind of gave us some high level topics we were going to discuss, but we didn't know exactly what we were going to be talking about. So there was one moment where Alex, he had started like down a certain path and he was like, so Jim. And I was like, I have no idea where he's going with this question. Like that's what went through my head. And then it ended up being something fine. But he did ask us like, what is it about Kirby Smart? And why has this worked so well at Georgia? And my one liner was, he's one of us.
So, he's one of us. Yeah.
I said other things, but that was basically it.
That's an accurate assessment, I feel like.
Yeah.
So it being home field in their apparel, was there any uniform talk?
We didn't do uniform talk. We did not. Okay. We stayed away from that. But they were there in full force, and had a bunch of folks come out and got a lot of home field gear. So I think it was a good night for all. So I know they were pleased with the event.
Did you grab one of those jackets?
I picked one up for Dwight. Dwight wanted me to get one for him, so I did, but not for myself.
Because you kind of already have one.
Yeah, I'm ripping my Standing Bulldog home field T-shirt tonight, so I've got that.
Excellent.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, yeah. So it was a good time. It was a lot of fun. But we don't need to dwell on that anymore. But again, thanks to everyone who came out. Had an absolute blast, and it's pretty fun getting to sit up and sit with that crew and talk to the dogs for an hour. So it was a lot of fun.
Awesome. I'm super jealous. So then you went back to Ponda's famous house and then you had the game the next day, right?
Game next day. So my sister came over with my niece and friend in the morning. My parents dropped us off at the tailgate, or when we walked down the tailgate. So saw rodeo again, hung out with the crew, and did that. Made our way down to Hug Dogs on the way in. Ran into a buddy of mine from high school that I know listens. Shout out Brad. Hadn't seen him in a minute, so that was a lot of fun. I got to hang out with him pregame. They went on to the game where Fripp Dog, my dad, made his return to Sanford Stadium.
The triumphant return.
So my dad made it back. He was a game time decision. He'd been hopeful. And we pretty much made the decision Friday night, but they made it. And so he skipped the tailgates. We're just a little worried about like the hard handshake or someone wanting to give him a hug. High five, yeah. Pat on the back and hitting the shoulder. So he just went to the game.
I would have been one of those people.
Right. There were definitely moments in the game, foreshadowing a little bit, where many of us were excited when big moments happened. Yeah. And my mom was kind of like shielding my dad to make sure no one bumped into him. She was good. So she was a great caretaker and watched after him.
I can imagine so. I wouldn't expect anything less.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I saw Greg. Greg wasn't in town. He was missing.
Yeah. We didn't have Greg. So rodeo held down the fort.
Did he hit a rough patch on the turf before a game or something like that?
Maybe. I'm not sure. I didn't get details. I don't know exactly, but I know he'll be back for Ole Miss. He'll be back for Ole Miss.
Because I know that we were going back and forth with that guy which I haven't even looked, to be honest. There's that Missouri guy that does the tailgates. I can't remember what his name was. Tailgate.
Oh yeah, like the tailgate.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't believe he was there. There were a few Mizzou people. There was actually some Mizzou people who we had met at the home field thing that John introduced me to, and they came by. Well, that's not even talking to you. So it was one Mizzou fan and then an Ole Miss fan who was supporting her friend who has a Mizzou podcast. Mizzou, that's who, by the way. So shout out Maggie. Got to meet them and had a good time. They stopped by the tailgate as well on Saturday. So
you had a little foreshadowing with some Ole Miss folks too, huh?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, apparently she did say that she got the jokes on Friday because I think when they got there, she was walking around with her Ole Miss stuff on, and people were like, "You're here a week early."
Yes, I
Uh,
would have done the same thing.
it's pretty good. Pretty good.
Cool,
Oh
man.
yeah.
It was a pretty good day, pretty warm too.
Oh my gosh. Yes. We were like, we will not be we will not have to deal with the swirling winds, in the fourth quarter. And so we had like way too much clothing. So I know people made fun of me on Twitter, and I guess rightfully so. It did not get cold.
It did not get
Um,
cold.
no, pants and a polo was fine. I was hot most of the day. Uh,
Yeah,
I put on my jacket for like maybe 5 minutes in the fourth quarter at one point, and then I got hot again. I took it off.
I had uh I had a whole fire ready to go, but I was like, it's kind of too hot. I'm not gonna do this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
But it's gonna get we have some cooler weather coming in town, but we'll get to that for next week. But as far as the
yeah.
game goes, like what you had texted us that the Missouri fans were here.
Oh, okay. So it was weird. Like they were out in full force. It felt like out and about throughout town at the tailgates. But then when I got into the
Mhm.
stadium, it was just like every other game. Like, they were basically kind of crowded around the band, which they didn't have the full band, they had like a pep band. So kind of down there in that corner. There were
Mhm.
some scattered throughout. But it was mainly just down there in that corner. So I would say, I mean, they traveled, but it's still, I still haven't seen anything like what Georgia does still, haven't seen anyone come into Athens like that in a long time. Like when we were in school, you would see a ton of away fans in Athens.
Mhm.
So I think I guess, it's a sign of kind of where we're at, and we're not selling our tickets, online to folks. So we're protecting the home field.
Yeah, you got to protect the home field. I think that's definitely an element that would have been involved in that because I mean, a lot of folks. I mean, I would probably be in that vein too. I was looking at maybe going for this last game, and the ticket prices and game times and all those kinds of things kind of wore you off. But like, um, these ticket prices have been pretty stout. I mean, which you would expect for the back-to-back national champions. But
Exactly.
I imagine there's folks that just come into town and get the game day experience, which you can get. You can have a great time at a tailgate because I've done it multiple times.
Right.
Um, Not going to the game can sometimes be fun. The only bad parts about not going to the game is that the stadium erupts, and then you're like, apparently something good happens.
That is funny. Yeah, man. Yeah, I don't know that I've experienced that to be that close during a game. You hear the roar and then you get the delay of the TV.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
Uh,
happened. It happened to me when we went to the Oregon game and we watched it from the parking lot. You
mm,
could hear inside Mercedes Benz like roars and stuff. And then it happened to me before another. I can't remember which game.
it's
Which
probably
game?
Tennessee because didn't you guys watch Tennessee from the tailgate last year?
Yeah, Tennessee.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Well, when the actually, I don't know. I don't know if they showed it on TV. There was a flyover. There was like a Coast Guard helicopter flyover. Did they show that on TV? On TV?
If they did, I might have missed it.
Okay. I actually recorded that on my phone. I'll have to send that to you, or I'll have to post that or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was pretty cool. Um, but then I don't know, I guess we could talk about the game. One thing that I had totally forgot about, I was obviously upset about at the time, but I'd forgotten about until right before we started recording. And I was watching like the key plays. We fumbled the opening kickoff. I mean, we got it back, but
That was an omen.
holy cow. I was like, what happened there? Oh man. But
I tell you what, man, that's definitely something that I'll be looking for here coming up is, can we figure out this kicking situation because that's not the first time we've had that issue where either something's been misfielded or you know the the return guys will just make a boneheaded decision or like try to do too much or I don't know what it is, but the return game has not been as crisp as you'd probably would like it to be for a team in our position.
yeah. Yeah. And I think there was I think there was like I don't know that I want to say confusion, but Muse is the primary returner and they kicked it to Bell.
Hmm.
And like for the next kick, they were kind of like standing next to each other, trying to like swap to confuse them or whatever to make sure the kick went to Muse. I noticed
Right.
that like later on in the game. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, if I was a team watching that and you had the opportunity to kick it, I would probably be trying to kick it to Bell. The other thing
yeah.
that I thought was really weird was that he caught it like right on the goal line. Had he just like let it go, it wouldn't have been a problem.
Right. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with the touchback.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh man. But so we get the ball right. We go down and we do get a field goal on the opening drive. But I think like right away we were reminded of the Missouri defense. Like, we did talk about in the preview, right, about like last year and how disruptive they were with Stetson. And that really continued. I mean, they are aggressive on defense and they were disruptive to Carson.
Yeah. Yeah, he was definitely uncomfortable, and I feel like that there was definitely as the game wore on, and he got knocked down a few times because I think that was the first time. Wasn't this the first game that he's had like multiple sacks?
It sounds right. I'm not sure if that's totally accurate, but I mean, he's stayed very clean throughout the
He's
season.
stayed clean all season long. Yeah. Um. Yeah. In any case, it was odd to see him taking sacks, and I think that the pace of which the pocket collapsed on him was a problem. I was happy to see him step up in the pocket on one of those and rip off a really long run. I was like, hey, there he is.
Yes, true. Yeah, he did it a
He
couple of
can run
times.
too.
Yeah,
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 exactly. So I would say that the offensive line, my buddy Stacy and I, we got to talk. We got to get together and have some beers or something. Like, got to figure this out because it's going to get worse and worse as the weeks roll on, and we get to SEC championship and all those kinds of things. So, um, yeah, it was unfortunate to watch him go down as many times as he did.
that was kind of my question for you was, did the offensive line and your boy Stacey Searles, like, did the line take a step back in this game, or was it more just like, hey, Mizzou's defense is really good?
I think it's a combination of things, like a combination of like I don't think that they played particularly well. I mean, yeah, they did good. Yeah, they've got guys that can rush the passer and stuff, but like we've got guys that are 5 stars. Like
Yeah.
we shouldn't be getting pushed off the ball the way that they were. Um, now that said, like there's a couple of times when I felt like that Carson was probably holding on to the ball a little too long. Um, there, I haven't gone back to watch all of them, but I do remember a couple of different plays. There was one play like later in the game in the second half when he was throwing a ball away, and it looked like if had he just looked over to his right, he had Dominic Lovett like basically wide open.
Mm, yeah.
There was another play earlier in the game where if he just held on to the ball a little bit longer, he had a guy breaking wide open. If he'd have just hit him, there's a couple of passes here and there where, he rushed. I don't know if he just felt rushed or like the pressure got to him where he was rushing his throws, and he made some off throws here and there, and so that was something that I thought was problematic. And if you're a team watching that Georgia team, like if you can figure out a way to get pressure on our offensive line the way that Missouri was able to do,
Mm,
that might give you a path forward for a more talented team that's deeper in the secondary and deeper in the front seven.
right. Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Um, let's see. So we're mentioning oh, maybe I don't remember you were saying that one pass, whether it was Rara or Lovett was open, but it was interesting, I guess interesting, cool, maybe. I don't know, cool, interesting to see Lovett going up against his old squad. Scored the first touchdown of the game, which I didn't realize live. Like, that's actually my dad and I, we had rewatched a couple of plays this morning. I didn't realize like how close they had like a blitzing linebacker or a corner or something that like almost batted that ball down on that kind of little bubble screen, which apparently also Kirby said that Carson checked into that, by the way. So the first touchdown, that's not, um, I don't know exactly how it was called, but apparently he recognized something and checked into that play. But then once Lovett caught it, he kind of walked into the end zone. Um, and yes, Fletcher, I did love it when that happened. I know he asked that on Twitter.
Didn't you love it?
Oh man, but
Amazing.
yeah. But also, I was gonna say post game for him. I know, like I saw like he like went straight for Burden, and they hugged on the field when the game was over. So I'm sure that was kind of a weird situation going up against your old team like that. But anyways, sorry, you were saying something.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like, yeah, that probably would have been weird. As far as like the wide receiver position goes, like I think the broadcast crew kind of talked about this, that that they've got. I think at the point in time when they were talking about it, they're like, there's been 8 different rushers in this game for Georgia, and they're right. Like there's so many weapons all across the field for this team.
Yeah,
And I feel like that, maybe the Florida game, you could make an argument for us. Like there was a couple of plays that just like, I mean, I'll give you like for instance, like there are some plays that I feel like that either Missouri just saw and expected where they got completely blown up. Like uh, there was one pass to Dylan Bell that in particular sticks out to me, where that Missouri fans were like all up in arms about it being like a catch and a fumble, which I thought it might have been a fumble when I was watching it live. They never really went back and reviewed it all that much, but it basically was just like I actually thought that like when we were watching the replay, like they watched one replay and like it just kind of moved on, and it never was like one of those like laborious reviews. But
yeah.
during the initial replay, I was like, that kind of looks like targeting.
Was it Rosemy Jack Saint? Because there was one to
Oh,
Rosemy
maybe
where
that's what I thought it was Dylan Bell that caught it, but maybe it was Rosemary Jack Saint.
there was definitely one to Roseby where he got like we like didn't block on the perimeter or something, and he got drilled. He
He
got
got
absolutely
drilled.
drilled. Yeah,
Yeah, that must have
yeah,
been the one I was thinking of. There was another one in the flat that Carson, like again, like it seemed like that there was a bunch of guys the pocket was closing in, and he didn't have enough time to kind of allow the play to develop. And maybe that's the takeaway in this game. So there's a pass, like he threw it to Dylan Bell, and the pass didn't even make it to Dylan Bell. Like it basically fell complete behind him. It's like he threw it behind him.
mm,
I think even if he catches it, he ends up getting blown up. Again, I think that they were ready for those quick little passes into the flats and our little bubble screens, with the exception of like a handful of plays there.
yeah,
But it seemed like that they were ready for that setup. And the way that the plays were going, I feel like that if I was a coaching staff, I would say, okay, we put in these plays that were kind of required guys to be in motion and moving around a lot and requiring a lot of setup time, basically. And if you don't have that time coming from the offensive line, you've got to pivot the game plan.
right. And I wonder how much of that, like the fact that they were coming off a bye week, comes into play there. Like they maybe figured something out.
I don't disagree. I think I might have mentioned that in the preview that them coming off a bye week to me was kind of an annoyance at best.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And I don't know. Ole Miss played, so they're not going to be coming off a bye week. I don't know
Mm-mm.
if Tennessee's. I'm trying to think of anybody on the rest of our schedule if they're going to be coming off of a bye week.
I don't think so at this point. I don't believe so.
Which probably bodes well for us. Because if you have 2 weeks to prepare for this team, this year in particular, it makes you a little bit. It gives you better odds against this team for sure if you got 2 weeks to prepare for them.
Agreed. Yeah, I know Tennessee isn't because they're playing Missouri this week, so they won't be coming off a bye either. So
that'll be interesting to watch and see how Missouri plays them, because it'll give us. They're a pretty good defense. So I think that's one of those things that we did not lose. We did not lose to them, but they were a good team, right? They were a good defense, good offense, and probably indicative and at least a good test for getting us battle ready for down the road. We kind of had to overcome came from behind, that kind of thing. So
yeah, They're good, man. That we beat a very good football team on Saturday. I 100% believe that. Um,
But don't let any Ohio State folks talk to you about that, man. They beat a really tough Rutgers team on the road in New Jersey this past weekend.
yeah, yeah, seriously.
On CBS, by the way. Then that's I was
Uh,
talking about that. Like that's another thing. Carter. So we were watching the game. He like we were trying to figure out which games to watch. We have a guy in the neighborhood who's a K-State fan, so I was trying to watch K-State Texas, and Carter's
mm,
like, "Oh, let's watch Ohio State Rutgers. Come on!" And so we turned it on, and Carter was like, "Wait, what's that sound?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "That music they're playing." I was like, "Yeah, that's the SEC music, or it's the CBS football music." Is they're doing that for Big Ten now? It's like it was like he just realized that like
uh,
CBS was no longer going to be around, and they're going to be doing the Big Ten stuff. So
it's a
but that's
sad
what you
day.
have a taste. That's what you have a taste of. You have Ohio State playing Rutgers in New Jersey.
Man, so they had a triple header.
They
They
had
had
a triple
that, then
header.
they had us, and then Bama, LSU. That's crazy. Um,
They're going
I
to miss
did,
us next year, though.
yeah, seriously. Also McConkey is still on his donkey.
Mhm.
7 catches, 95 yards. I think Kirby made a big deal about that. We finally completed a post route. I guess that had been a point of contention on the offense, not being able to do that. That was the lad. That was like right before the touchdown pass to Delp, which was very nice, by the way. In the stadium, that was in the other end zone, and like I think my dad and I both thought Carson like short armed it, but and like the Delp wasn't going to catch it, but he threw it basically where the defender couldn't get. So it was
Exactly.
great. It was a great pass. Um,
Hmm.
but there's also the play where, like, again, one of those kind of swing out to the lateral passes was not blocked well, and Lad like put a guy in the spin cycle and made the guy totally whiff, uh, and got a first down. I mean, he's looking good. He's not looking like the back is bothering him.
Yeah, no, there was a couple of times in these games that he's played in. I'm like, oh, if I had a hurt back, I would probably be hurting from that.
Yeah, seriously. So
I'm hoping that he's completely healthy because I think that Ladd was one of those guys that if you went back and looked at the tapes, that's what some of the guys in the text thread were talking about. That if Beck is going back and looking at tape, Ladd's open a significant amount of time. So
yeah,
um, I haven't gone back to look. Did you notice anything on when you were looking at it?
I did not. No,
Yeah.
no. Um,
Maybe
and then
that'll be one thing that'll be nice about this next game that we have coming up because I think that don't they do it for the game day games? Don't they have like the all 11?
it's a good question. Yeah,
Anyway,
I'm not sure. Yeah, they may, with it being the 7 o'clock CBS, which we didn't talk about that. Yeah. So next week, Ole Miss game, 7 o'clock kickoff. And it'll be on 3:30 at Tennessee the following week. But yeah, we'll need to watch that. So sometimes they do like kind of like the multi-channel broadcast thing. So
hmm.
we'll look out for that. But I know the other thing you wanted to hit on was the Carson Beck and his record, his streak extending.
Yeah, he set an SEC record last week at Florida. He's had eight consecutive. He's thrown for over 250 yards in his first eight starts, and then he just did it again against Missouri. So he's extending his SEC record of consecutive games throwing for over 250 yards. And I feel like that he's not getting the respect that he deserves. But I tell you who is giving him respect, Jim?
Mm.
Vegas.
Okay.
With each passing week, Carson Beck's numbers, and John was the one that talked about that. He kind of followed up on something that I had kind of noticed in after the Florida game. You still had pretty decent odds that if you wanted to throw $50 or something like that at Carson Beck winning the Heisman, because if he continues, it's just like the Brock Bowers conversation. At this point, it's just a math equation for him.
Right.
If he keeps hitting these numbers, we're probably going to keep winning these games if he keeps hitting these numbers.
Yeah.
And if he keeps hitting those numbers, eventually he's going to play himself into a numerical Heisman contention because there's nobody else that's going to be able to really compete with him. Because I mean, you look at this, I would have said Jaden Daniels had he, not lost in this past weekend and not gotten knocked out, like he probably would have been odds on favorite to win the Heisman if he was able to continue and to not have another loss. And so now you're looking at like, okay, well, now Michigan's got Penn State coming up and then they got Ohio State again. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
There's a number of guys that are going to have opportunities to potentially fall, and as long as Carson just keeps taking care of business, and as long as Georgia keeps taking care of business, like eventually he's going to be in New York.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be a valid justification to keep him out of there if he keeps putting up these numbers.
Yeah, I agree. All right. You cool if we take a moment to remind everyone about the sponsor?
Yeah.
So season 4, My God, a Podcast, presented by Oxia Time. So be sure to go check them out.
I had to adjust my watch, Jim. Sorry.
You had to just time change. I did that.
I lied. I did that already. But you did have to adjust the time on the automatic Swiss watch. That is amazing.
That is true. Yeah. So John, I always talk about how I really enjoy my NATO strap, right? That I've gotten.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you like your stainless steel strap. I will say
at this point, my Oxia watch is undefeated. So
it's true. So I'll tell you. So on that note, since I was going to be up on the stage at the Foundry for this panel, I wanted to put on the stainless steel band because I felt like it would shine a little bit more on the stage. And so I did. So I was able to change it out, but then changed it back for the game because because I wanted to keep what I had been doing. So I had been wearing the NATO strap all season. So I changed to the stainless steel for the event and then went back to the NATO strap for the game. So, on that, interchangeable straps, they give you the tools to make the changes yourself. Pretty cool.
You're not stitious. You're just a little stitious.
Exactly.
You're not super stitious. You're
Just
a little stitious.
Just a little stitious. So be sure to head over to oxiatime.com. That's AXIATIME.com. They've got the 2021 and 2022 National Championship watch collections over there. And you can find the Kirby Smart autographed limited edition watches. You can find those on the site as well. So thanks again to Oxia Time. And remember, My God, a Podcast, you can use that code to get a special presentation box with your timepiece as well. All right. The defense. Missouri had, obviously the offense was very good. The offense was explosive, and we saw that explosiveness on the first drive with the deep pass to Burden. I actually remember like when he caught that pass and he was so open. I was sitting next to my sister, and she looked at me like, "What just happened?" And I was like, "It's okay. He's like the best receiver in the country."
Yeah.
I was like, we'll figure it out. We knew he was going to do that at least once. Like, it's okay. We got it out of the way.
Yeah. I mean, they schemed around him. That's for sure.
Yeah. And that was the thing. So one of the things we talked about was like, what were we going to do with him? And will we see Lassiter move around? And that's exactly what we did. And we didn't do it the way I really thought we would. Cause like that first touchdown, he caught it over Everett. But they put Lassiter in the slot on Burden, which we hadn't seen him play slot corner before. He was usually on the edge. So I thought that was interesting. But he really did. He neutralized him. Made a huge difference once we made that change. So
yeah, I mean, this team came in, with the whole reputation of just being this wide open offense, right? This just completely unstoppable offense. And Luther Burden was branded as like you said, the best wide receiver in the country. Well, the best wide receiver in the country, 3 receptions, 53 yards, 1 touchdown.
Yeah,
which a huge chunk of those, 39 of those yards was the touchdown. So aside from that,
yeah,
dude, Buddy was locked down. They had the next best guy was Theo Weiss Jr. He had 5 receptions, 90 yards, no touchdowns. He had a long of 30. So like they had some long plays, but again, like you look at those stat lines, and then like further up the chain, you look at Brady Cook. 14 of 30, 212 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, a QBR of 72. That's on allegedly one of the best quarterbacks in the country.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was
By
we made
comparison, Carson Beck,
yeah.
21 of 32 for 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interception, QBR of 84.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the turnovers were so huge late. And especially that last one, right? Like, what do we talk about? If you could get this team behind and make them have to press, then good things are going to happen for our defense, because that's exactly what happened late in the game against LSU. And that's what happened late in the game against us. So, you know, you get them behind like that. And I mean, and they fought back, man. They're good. Like, I'm not going to say I was super pleased when they got that touchdown and then the 2-point conversion to cut it to 3, late. But then our offense, was able to pull together a nice drive right after that and answer, 2 field goals after that. But the defense really sealed it for us. I know a couple of the huge plays. So on the opening drive of the second half, so the first Missouri drive, it actually felt kind of weird. Like, they came out kind of firing on all cylinders. It's usually like, oh, Georgia makes such great adjustments at halftime. But they came out kind of doing like re-energized almost. Missouri's offense did. But we bogged them down, right? Like we've talked about, the kind of bend but don't break. You get near the red zone, that's when Georgia really clamps down, and that's what we did there on that drive. That was where we basically ended it and held to a field goal on a Tyke Smith came on a blitz and just crushed Cook. It was an amazing sack, and held him to a field goal, which was a huge play, because they were really driving and could have set a tone for the second half. And then I think that was a pretty big game changing play. And then we talked about Lassiter, but Humphrey, this game was the most we had seen him, and he made some really big plays.
Yeah. I didn't have him on my notes, you know what I mean? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
I didn't expect him to be such a factor. I think Dalen Everett, they kind of picked on him a little bit, which,
yeah.
I feel like that the coaching staff pulled him out, to stop the bleeding in certain situations, but then they did throw him back out there again.
They did,
a couple times. And I think that he kind of responded decently, I felt like. But yeah, I think that the overall, like, you look at the win probability, right? Like, I mean, as tight as it felt, right? Like, the win probability never really dipped below 60% roughly.
Yeah.
So even though we were, again, just felt like that we were going to be able to figure this out. My buddy that was my buddy that I told you about was like always like fire Bobo. He's like the text thread version of the guy behind you. Which was the guy behind you or back?
My dad asked that. We talked about that. So my answer to my dad was like, we were talking about the person right behind us and how nice they were. And my dad was like, that wasn't the Bobo guy, was it? I was like, no. The Bobo guy is kind of like over my right shoulder. Like, well, was he there? And I was like, I don't know. I turned around. I was like, I definitely never heard him. I was like, so either he's not coming to the games anymore, or he can't complain about Bobo anymore.
Right. He listened to the podcast.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I'd say that there's like my one complaint about Bobo right now, although there were definitely, I don't know, the play calling I felt like was sporadic, I guess, for lack of a better description. So speaking of like the sporadic play calling, so like I'll give you like a for instance, which probably would have been like the most mind-boggling part of the game.
Okay.
Do you remember when Clay Vandegrift came in?
Yeah. Brock Vandegrift. But yes, I do.
But the broadcasters called him Clay, which
they did? Oh, so I didn't know that. I didn't get your joke.
That was the whole joke. Oh my gosh.
I haven't seen it on TV.
No, we joked about it on the text thread that they called him Clay. They called him Clay Vandegrift. I actually tweeted it out. I was like, run the dang back. Oh man, yeah.
Sorry. I was in the stadium. I missed it in the text thread. My bad.
Yes. No. So the broadcast crew called him Clay Vandegrift when he came in. So first of all, like that
Oh
was
my
the first
gosh.
thing. Carter looked at me and was like, "What? These guys are horrible." And
Oh my
and
gosh.
then the next thing you're like, why is he in the game? Was there ever any indicator or like was there anything that ever was answered about why Vandegrift came in?
I have no idea. I know I asked the text thread because I was so confused. I think I said like, did Beck lose his helmet on the last play or something? Because I couldn't figure it out. Like I assumed he was hurt when we because I think they'd gone to timeout or something. There's a TV timeout or something, and we came back and Vandergriff was in, and we were in the stands. We were just so confused.
Yeah. So all right. So you had that play, and
Yeah,
then there was another play where I don't know. It was just kind of like that was it was just it was a throwaway play. It was a completely wasted play in the red zone on the goal line, and you just felt like, of course, I think a few plays later he hit the he hit the little screen pass to Dominic, but
yeah, yeah,
like it just was just like, man, like what are we doing here? And then later on in the game, the same thing kind of happened. Like, well, that was kind of a wasted play. I don't know. There was definitely some questionable things that came up, and you kind of wonder. I was like, this is the kind of stuff that people that hate the stereotypical Bobo. This is the kind of stuff that they talk about. Like, why are we
yeah.
doing this? When it seems like, I mean, I'll be honest. Like, it seemed like that at multiple points in the game, particularly in the first half. I was like, let's just stop running the ball and just let Carson just sling it. Like,
Yeah,
just stop
yeah.
running the ball.
It did feel like that at times, but then at the same time, like if we tried to run a slow developing play, he'd get sacked. So I don't know. I know Kirby actually did make a comment about like he was proud of how Bobo stuck with the run.
He's like, that's my boy.
He was like other coaches would have abandoned the run, but he didn't. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Uh,
it definitely wasn't one of our better running games, but
no, it wasn't. It wasn't.
we were fairly even. We were fairly even in the run game. We had 131 yards, they had 151 yards. We had 33 attempts, they had 34. They averaged 4.4, we averaged 4.
I mean, in
Um,
general, the game was pretty even statistically. It was turnovers and again, I know Kirby mentioned even return game. I mean, Muse almost broke one for a touchdown at one point. Like he had like one guy when I don't know, I feel like if he had been able to make one more guy miss, he takes one of those that last kickoff return to the house.
I think there was also a play that Kendall had, where he kind of got tripped up at the line, and Carter and I both were like, "Oh, if he doesn't get tripped up there, he's gone."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We had a couple of moments like that. How about Brett Thorson getting some national flowers on TV? They finally like started talking about the fact that no one has returned a single kick on him.
I mean, that's like the craziest stat.
It
I
really is
I
like
still can't believe it.
I have a feeling that like of all of the punters that are out there, right? Like you have these guys that are like really good at punts and whatnot, but like the whole point of punting it is to get it as high and as deep as possible so that they can't return it.
Right.
And that's exactly what he's doing. So like I'd be curious to see like how he pans out in the NFL, because hang time is a premium in the NFL.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It was a big day for the kickers.
It was, yeah.
It was a big
How
payday.
many points did he actually have? I didn't even know. I didn't even look.
Let's see. We had 3 field goals, so that's 9. So he should have had 11 points, I would think, right?
Wait, what? 11 punts?
Oh, sorry. I said
No,
payday. Did you said points, right?
no. I said punts. Like how many
How many
punts
punts?
did?
Oh, sorry. Because I was talking about Woodring. I thought you said how many points did he have? I didn't hear you right.
I'm sure. So he had 3 punts. So that's
Okay.
like a. I mean, he's gonna be sore. He's probably sore today.
That's a lot of work. There's a lot of work. He's not
It's
he's
a lot
not
of
used to
work.
such things.
Yeah.
Uh I was just saying kicking game. I mean, Woodring, that last field goal, man, was he nailed it. And we got the amazing reaction from the fan in the stands when Woodring drilled that field goal. Have you seen that?
What do you mean?
When Woodring made that last field goal, there was they cut to a crowd reaction and this guy was celebrating.
Oh, he was dancing, the dancing guy.
Not the dancing guy. It's like, he
Oh,
was like
the guy was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
yes.
yes.
Someone said that they know a guy that bet the 50.5 over or something.
Oh,
I
that's
know
funny. That's funny.
I know a guy that bet the over, his entire paycheck on the over.
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, but then obviously, I don't know, the play of the game, the one that led to the payday at the end, our guy from TikTok, Nazir Stackhouse, with the pick and the wheels, almost took it to the house. Although I guess now I'm kind of glad he didn't because of the block, the illegal block.
Yeah, if he'd have taken it to the house and it got wiped out from a stupid block, which I don't know. I actually, I now that I say that, I don't know that I went back and looked to see, like, was it bad? Like,
By the rules, it was 100% a blindside block. Um, so basically, he blocked the guy who I'm assuming was the intended receiver. Like it was a pretty bad pass. Like he threw it right to Nazir, and Munden just took out. I don't know if it was Schrader. I'm assuming it was Schrader because I think he was thrown into the running back. He absolutely just leveled him, and yeah, you can't do that. But here's what kind of irks me about it is if you watch as the play unfolds, when Nazir gets pretty close to the end zone, there's two guys chasing him, and then Jalen Walker comes in and does what you're taught to do now to not get a blindside block. He did, I think, kind of like a shield block, I guess, where like he turned his back to the defender and put his hands in the air to try and shield him, and one of the guys dove right through him and made the tackle. You know, like in the olden times when you were allowed to throw blocks, like Walker would have come across and just leveled those guys.
Leveled both of them. Yeah.
Exactly. And now like he's like, oh well, I can't do that. I'm going to get a penalty, so I have to shield him. And then the guy made the tackle. So I don't know. Like I guess I'm having a bit of a get off my lawn moment, but I just thought that was interesting to see the dichotomy there of the blindside block, but then what you're supposed to do not working later on the same play. I thought that was interesting. But
yeah, like what do you want him to do, kind of thing.
Exactly. But if you haven't seen like Nazir's interviews talking about the play, they're amazing. I think he said like he was out of breath like halfway on his run and everything. But it was incredible. Okay, so a couple of things about that play. That is the play that I was talking about where my mom was trying to shield my dad to make sure we didn't all like our circle of hugging, celebrating the interception didn't like injure my dad's shoulder. That was the play. Also, according to Lily, Kim spiked her phone in the house and broke her phone. Not broke her phone, broke her phone case. Her phone's fine. Her phone's fine. And like Kim says that Lily is completely exaggerating what happened. but the celebration of that play did break her phone case. But her phone's fine.
That is hilarious. Okay, so I just, while we were talking about this, I pulled it up to like see that play. I have a feeling that there's two distinct differences between what Jalen Walker did and whoever it was. I can't see.
It was Munden.
Munden. So here's the difference between those two plays. So Stackhouse catches the ball. Munden is about 8 yards behind the catch. It does not appear that he was anywhere near like the intended receiver. Like there's nothing, like that guy was never going to be involved in that play, and he just took him out anyway. Had Jalen Walker come through and done a clear out block like what you're talking about, I don't think based on the angle,
right,
that it would have been a blindside block had he actually blocked. But like either way, like it's kind of weird. Maybe he thought that he was going to get in anyway.
Yeah.
But to your point, like instead of like clearing them out, he ends up being like tripped up by one of the guys basically.
Yeah. So, but it was an interesting play. But dude, the stadium exploded when he caught that when he made that interception. And then he's just chugging down the sideline, and like I couldn't see at that point. I was like, who was that? And then when I realized it was Stackhouse, I was like, yes. He's got to make a TikTok. Has he made a TikTok about it yet? He needs to make a TikTok about it.
I don't know. I have to check. That's one of those things where it's like, he deserves a big play, and maybe that'll be a spark for this defensive line. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like they needed something.
Yeah. But the defense, closed the game out with that led to the field goal, make it a 9-point game, which the next time when Missouri had the ball, my dad kept being like, last time I checked, there's not a 9-point touchdown. So I think we're okay. But then
I love it, Lou.
but then Bullard completely ended it with his pick. So the guy continues to amaze. He's special.
Yeah. So I feel like I heard some folks talking about that particular play and how they baited him into throwing it or something like that. Did you hear any of that?
I have not. No, I've been driving all day.
Oh man, there's some amazing. I'm just like, since I had that play up on the highlights, it's like going through. There's some amazing. There's some amazing Missouri fan reaction gifs that I could potentially pull down for all the crying that the Missouri fans are doing.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
But yeah, no, I can't remember who it was talking about the interception that Bullard did, where like basically the coverage that we threw out there was such that it like I don't know. He was on the run and he was trying to throw it away, it seemed like, but like I don't know.
He wasn't trying to throw it away.
He did too much or something. I don't know what it was, but like basically he tried to do too much with it. It really is what it comes down to.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like they're down. He tried to force it. I mean, that's how I saw it. But
yeah, that's kind of one of those things. That's kind of one of those things that that I was expecting. That here's the thing. So if we end up in a game, we have coming up here. If you end up with a shootout with this team and you're in a position where you have to throw on them, and we know that you're going to throw on us, like I like that matchup. If we're in a late game where they have to catch up by going through the air, I really like our chances to completely like strangle the game out, because our secondary has got to be one of the best in the country, if not the best.
Yeah, I agree.
Just top to bottom, not just like one guy. I mean,
right.
We talked about Humphrey. We talked about Bullard. We haven't even talked about Tyke Smith in this game. Like he wasn't really a big factor in this game, right?
Well, he had that huge sack that I've talked about at the end of that drive. But yeah. We move guys around a bit.
We have talent up and down the field, much like we do on the offensive side, where we're talking about all these different receivers and running backs that have come through the game. So like it's just like on the secondary side of things, I just feel like that there's so many other weapons that I like our chances when someone is forced to throw the ball to get down the field.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, since we forgot it last time, I'm gonna again give you some flowers. You did make a little bit of gain in coaches over unders. So you went 4-4. I went 3-5. I went over 3 on offense for coaches over unders. So not a great week for me. So I still have the lead, but you are going moment by moment. You're gonna keep chopping, John, and we'll see how it plays out. So shout out to Coach Drill. Thanks again for checking this for us.
Keep chopping. Unfortunately, I feel like that at some point, like I'm going to be in a position where like I'm going to have to like make these decisions that go against what I want.
To try to catch up.
Yeah.
That's funny. All right. Well, I don't know. You got anything else on this one?
No, man. It was a good game. It was nice watching from home. Even though I couldn't be there, I tried to participate with we've got the Google lights or whatever, and so I turned on the red lights at the house.
Oh, nice. That's cool. Yeah, it was a good one. Everyone stayed for the whole game, so traffic was a little crazy getting out of Athens, but we made it back to my parents' house, and then I think we in the podcast before the podcast, I drove home this morning. I went from Athens to Charlotte to Winston-Salem. And now I'm back in Charlotte. So Ella sang in the North Carolina All-State Chorus today. It was fantastic, honestly. That was one of the best high school choral performances I've seen. And I was a high school choral performer myself. So I kind of know what
Ah.
I'm talking about. I've been in the arena, so to say, John.
I didn't know. I didn't know this.
Yeah, yeah. It was
So
excellent. It was fantastic. Yeah.
you seem like you'd make a lovely soprano.
I was a tenor. I was a tenor. Yeah. I couldn't sing today after screaming my head off last night. Like
Nice.
that. But yes, I was a tenor.
What was her like repertoire, or what was the songs that she sang?
You wouldn't know them. I didn't know them.
Oh, okay.
But they had an out of state conductor who used to be at ECU, but now he's out in Utah. Came in to instruct them for the weekend. It was excellent. They did like 6 songs. They were all very good.
Well, if it was anything like my teenager, she was probably singing Christmas songs. Because Christmas music is on in my house. Right
there. I'll tell you this: there were only 2 that were in English.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, yeah. It was good.
Not ideal, but I'm glad that she did great.
He would explain what they meant before.
Got it.
For the 4 months. It was fantastic. It was really good. So
Kudos.
yes, it was a good weekend, man. Had a lot of fun. Missed you, but we'll sync back up again.
We have some other opportunities coming down the pipeline, I'm hoping.
Yeah, for sure. Cool, man. Well, we do know the kickoff time for the next foe. So again, Ole Miss will be a night game. We'll be back to preview them soon. But like we said, this one was for the lead in the East. We haven't clinched it yet, but we maintain that lead. Missouri's out of the running now. That was a heck of a football team that we beat on Saturday night.
Yeah, and for everyone out there, you maybe have a chance to go by and wave goodbye to Pat McAfee. Like he's coming back. I don't know, but like you have the opportunity. It's out there.
Nice.
Because game day is coming to town. I want to be like, I want to make a sign. If we end up going, I want to make a sign that says like, I made a sign, but Pat McAfee blocked it or something like that.
Nice. Yes. I'm gonna hold you to that. Awesome, man. Well, it was a fun one. Hey, dogs are still on top. 9-0. Let's just keep doing it.
Keep the main thing. Just win, baby. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.